How does Rumi look upon Islam?
Is that?
Rumi's attitude towards Islam.
Rumi looks on Islam as a practical religion which does not drag you away from the worldly matters and which not drags you to mere materialism. It takes you to a balanced way of life in which spiritualism and the worldly matters they take a very balanced way.
You said you had a footnote. You want to add some footnote after this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a footnote that the present trend of reading Rumi in West, especially in America, of his love poems, perhaps it started because the American youth was sick of the literature which they had been reading in the course of time. And few of us know that Masnavi Rumi is not the only major work of Rumi. He had another major work, and its title is Diwan-e Shams Tabriz. These are thousands and thousands of ghazals and poems. And he did not, in Persian and Urdu and perhaps in Turkish, a poet uses his poetry name at the end of a poem. And Rumi used not his own name, but name of his spiritual leader, Shams Tabriz, at the end of those poems. So that book is called Poems of Shams Tabriz, but actually they are poems of Rumi. And these are the main love poems, not Masnavi, because Masnavi pertains to mysticism directly. And Diwan-e Shams Tabriz, poems of Shams Tabriz, they are more metaphorical and they are more symbolic, and apparently they look like love poems, hence trend in America and European countries towards Rumi's love poems.
Question?
Just need to ask one thing, that Iqbal's thoughts were not implementable in last 60, 70 or 80 years in Muslim world. Any reason of that?
Thoughts of a poet or of a philosopher are not like a 5-year plan which are implemented. They are mostly meant to affect thinking. And I think during last 60 or 70 years they have done a lot to motivate minds of Muslim youth in Iran, in Tajikistan, where I've heard, I have been to Uzbekistan many times, but unfortunately the main heartland of Persian, Tajikistan, I have not been able to go there. I've heard that Iqbal is taught lesson-wise on their television. I think Iqbal has affected a lot Muslim youth during all these years. But when you say that the thoughts could not be implemented, then they could not be implemented like, say, in black and white.
They can be educated only.
They can affect your thinking.
So it was very impressive talk by you.
I hope so.
I just wanted to ask, you have highlighted about the importance of language. So what is the solution for that? Because the Muslim countries, they are speaking different languages. Should they adopt one language, or what should they do?
It's a very good question. And 200 million, if we talk only about Pakistan, and that applies on all the Muslim world, there are 200 million people in Pakistan, and everybody is trying his or her best to learn English, and they do it. So if they intend and if they have willpower, they can learn Persian also. And Persian is the language of civilization and culture of Pakistani and Indian Muslims. And one thing which Pakistani and Indian Muslims do not know is that everybody knows Persian, because Urdu is 70-80% derived from Persian, and they have to only assimilate it, and they have to only realize it that this word is used in this way. An educated Pakistani or an educated Indian Muslim, my experience is, can learn Persian in 2 to 3 weeks. Because I think you are from Iran.
No.
Gentlemen?
No, you're talking about me?
Yeah.
मैं तो इस्लामाबाद में हूँ।
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा।
Basically, he is from Atak.
Yeah, I'm
अच्छा,
from
अच्छा।
Batak.
तो आपने तो रोब ऐसे डाला हुआ है जैसे आप ईरानी वज़ीर ख़ारिजा हैं। So, in 2 to 3 weeks you can learn Persian, and you can be in a position to understand Iqbal and Rumi. Because most of Persian you already know because of your language Urdu.
Even our time, from class 6 to class 8, Persian was a subject. And
Gee.
after that they changed to Arabic, and now all over.
They are again shifting to Arabic, and then again they will shift to something else.
Chinese. The next speech is Chinese.
Yeah.
And one
So-
important thing for this language, this is my perception, that the East Pakistan was created just because of this language issue. The
Yeah.
major issue was this language.
Yeah.
There were other issues, but this was the major issue.
Yeah. I know many things about it because I have been, I was a student of Dhaka University. I did my master's from there. Okay. Don't force them to put questions because let them enjoy
I
it.
have one question.
Gee.
As you said that any Pakistani or anybody who wants to learn the language, he can learn Persian in 2 to 3 weeks. There-
Provided he's serious.
Yeah. इकबाल का एक शेर है, सबक दिल पर सदाकत का शेर, लिया जाएगा तो उसे काम दुनिया की इमामत का। तो फिर हमें why we need to protest to Google, to Israel, to don't put movies on YouTube. हमें इकबाल का ये एक वो नहीं समझ
Yes,
आ
you are
रहा।
right. It's a controversial issue, and I personally don't subscribe to what Pakistan or others they are doing by doing away with YouTube. Because if you do away with YouTube, for instance, if in Pakistan I'm very fond of listening to Qiraat, and when I'm in Australia, I go to YouTube and I choose Qari of my own choice. But in Pakistan, I can't. I can't do it. So you are right, but then this is perhaps not the proper audience to discuss the Pakistani policies.
And I'm talking about इकबाल कि जी लिया जाएगा तुझसे काम दुनिया की इमामत का। तो क्या हमें इकबाल का ये शेर समझ नहीं आ रहा है या क्या है?
हमें तो बहुत कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा, सिर्फ ये शेर तो नहीं है ना। हम तो ये समझते हैं कि इमामत से मुराद मस्जिद की इमामत है, जिसको तनख्वाह मिलती है।
लीड करने का ऐसे बने कि दुनिया आपके पीछे।
Sure. I have a question. So you are sometimes living in Australia, as I understand. So what are the reflections of Rumi and Iqbal among Westerners?
Iqbal is known only to few circles which go into details into philosophy and Oriental poetry. But Rumi, as I already said, that Rumi these days is talk of the town, and it has become a fashion. You would find lot of books written on Rumi's love poems in every bookshop in Australia, in America, in Europe, everywhere. And it may not be a very ideal situation in the sense that the selection of poems is being done from a particular point of view, from particular dimension, but still something is better than nothing, because those who read those selections, if some of them they like and they develop a taste of Rumi's poetry, then they can go into details, and a series of giving lectures on Rumi in Australia is by some knowledgeable persons. I know one lady who comes from Canberra to Melbourne to deliver lecture on Rumi. It's quite popular.
Okay. We have last question.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
Thank you very much for your talk. I very much enjoyed it. I was listening to an interview recently with a woman named Mayfair Yang, who she directs the East-West Center in California, at the University of California, Santa Barbara. And she was talking about religiosity in China, but looking at a very interesting perspective, saying that if you look at the 19th century, right, the century of what many Chinese view as the century of humiliation for China, with Western powers coming in, the signing of all these unequal treaties in Hong Kong and Shanghai and all the ports, there was this sense of sort of muscular Protestantism that in some ways sowed the seed for the current ideology that the communist government has right now in terms of its suppression of religion, or that discourse around religion. This idea that in the 19th century it was Christianity was the only game in town. Now it's almost like the vestiges of the cult of Mao is the only game in town, and it's this sense of like we go back to technology or social innovation or that conversation. That's going to be what carries us forward. But that's not the complete answer.
I'm happy you're not putting any question.
so
Self-correct.
yeah, I guess the question is like, now I think there's this dialogue about like, well hold on, climate change. China has all these issues with social unrest, inequality. So there's this hunger for a moral conversation to happen. So what can the teachings of Rumi contribute to that dialogue that is beginning to be unearthed in China?
The struggle between industrial hustle bustle and morality, perhaps you are talking this.
Yeah.
It's not something new. This
No.
has always been there in the world. Whenever industrialization took place and whenever trading flourished in some countries, then people became very wealthy and spiritualism went down. It always happened, and I think ultimately the spiritualism will win. Because, for instance, look at the life of Hong Kong. I have been just reflecting on it, that from 6 in the morning up to 12 in the evening, one doesn't have any time for himself. So people would switch over to Rumi and to other writers also, to Shakespeare and to poetry, to drama, to religion, because that's what they need, and they always need shelter when they are in such a cutthroat atmosphere. I think, for instance, there are many people who are afraid that literature would be lost because of technology and because of the computer, but then I always reply that even if there is a lot of computerization and there is a lot of automation, still somebody would lose his mother and somebody would lose his child. So whenever there is some occasion, such occasion, literature would come back, religion would come back, because they would always need to get relief, and that relief would be possible only with religion and literature.